I don't think this is speaking out of turn. I ran into Jim at an event at a funeral about a year ago, and we just got into a conversation. This had nothing to do with anything. This was in no way were we talking about him leaving Michigan or anything. We were just talking about quarterback play, and he was raving about Justin Herbert. Raving. And he just kept going on and on about how good he thinks he is, et cetera, et cetera. And my mind keeps going back to that if this thing in Ann Arbor gets ugly, I will repeat once again, please no one say Greeny is I'm not saying anything except that I know he is a huge fan of Justin Herbert. And that feels like a job that, well, candidly, I can't believe isn't open yet.
Yeah. Great.
So that would feel like a fit to me. If this thing gets really ugly in Ann Arbor, that would feel like a fit to me.
Yeah.
There was no moment during this regular season in baseball where you thought, oh, the Diamondbacks are one of the handful of best teams in the sport. I want to preface these remarks I'm about to make by saying, in no way am I diminishing what the Diamondbacks have accomplished. When you earn your way into the postseason, you have the same opportunity that everyone else does, and they got red hot at exactly the right time. And they 100% earned what they have. They 100% deserve a chance to win the championship. Let me make that as clear as it can be made before I go any farther. When the postseason began in baseball, we talked about the format. Baseball was the sport, was really the last one to start disregarding its regular season. Maybe one could argue college football has remained there. Next year it ends. College football has always been a sport where only the very, very, very best of the best had a chance to be the champions. Basketball, you get in the dance. You got to earn it. 4 best-of-7 series, that's a gauntlet. But you got your chance. Hockey, you got to earn it. But you get your chance. 16 teams make it. Basketball, hockey, football, they keep adding to it seemingly every year. Suddenly we have 14 teams making the playoffs. That is almost 50% of the teams get into the dance and have essentially the same chance as everyone else to win the championship. Baseball historically has never been that. Baseball has always been the sport where you had to prove over the course of the marathon that you were worthy of a shot at the sprint. It has now become at least as much, if not more, about the sprint than the marathon. And what you have to accept, if you're going to do that, and when people start writing all the stories about, oh, the ratings are going to be down and all that kind of stuff, what you are accepting is that you're going to have every now and again the Arizona Diamondbacks, who were outscored over the course of a 162-game season. They played 162 games, and they gave up more runs than they scored. It's only the second time a team like that has ever made the World Series. The 87 Twins were the other. You're going to get that team into the World Series. And my question is that okay with us or not? The NFL admits and understands that they did not make the correct calls at the end of Sunday's Colts-Browns game. I believe we need to institute instant replay for all calls, including penalties, in the last 2 minutes of all games. Now, I've been saying that for years, but they don't care what I think on Park Avenue. But this is Jim Irsay. He has owned this team all of his life, and he can actually do something about it. So I don't, for the life of me, understand why anything is not reviewable. Instant replay has become exactly what it shouldn't be. Instant replay has now become something that we use to try and correct microscopic little mistakes. And we have systems in place that every now and again it cannot correct huge mistakes. When in reality, all instant replay ever should have been was something to correct huge mistakes. I've told you 1,000,000 times. They should just institute the second look rule. If you look at the video one time and you say, I need to see it again, the call stands. Instant replay should only be overturning massively blown calls, and all of them. So if any human being looking at that tape of that pass that was thrown into the end zone at the end of that game against Cleveland did not decide that ball was uncatchable, I need them to tell me who could have caught it. Because unless you're Superman and thus can levitate up into the air, No human being alive could have caught that ball. Victor Wembanyama, standing on Yao Ming's shoulders, could not have caught that ball. I believe the ball was thrown away. I think P.J. Walker, who was quarterbacking the Browns at the time, could not take a sack in that situation, so I think he was throwing it out of the end zone. And they threw a flag. If that isn't the definition of uncatchable, I don't know what it is. I'm sitting on my couch waving my hand over my head like an idiot because that ball was so uncatchable and the call didn't get overturned. So I don't see for the life of me why anything is not reviewable, and you should only change the outcome when it is obviously blown. The NFC Championship game that year, where Drew Brees and Sean and all of them in New Orleans got royally screwed on that terrible no call of pass interference against the Rams, that would not have required a second look. But it wasn't reviewable, so they couldn't change it. So history will forever show that Sean Payton only won one Super Bowl and Drew Brees only won one Super Bowl and all the rest of that because of something that would have been so easy to correct. You could have done it in 10 seconds. And instead, we spend 4 minutes half the time trying to look at something because it's a quarter of an inch difference. If it's that close, leave it. And address these major issues regardless of what they are. In the last 15 games that he has been a part of, Chase Claypool, over the course of multiple different teams, here is what has happened. The Bears had Chase Claypool. They traded him. They are 2-1 since they traded him. They were 0-13 with him. The Dolphins, who acquired him, were 5-1 before activating him. They are 0-1 since activating him. Last year, the Steelers were 2-6 with him. They are 11-4 since trading him. So Chase Claypool has won 2 games in the last 2 seasons, and in the last calendar year, teams that he is playing for have a record of 0-15. 0-15. Chase Claypool is the ultimate jinx.
And speaking of cursing the gods, he famously tweeted on November 1st of 2020, losing? Never heard of her. This was after coming off of a win in Baltimore when he was with Pittsburgh at the time.
Yep.
And so obviously this precipitated what has now become an unprecedented.
What's the deal with that guy? Like, I've never met Chase Claypool. He's so talented. Like, you look at him, he's so big and physical and fast, and he seems to have everything that one would expect you need to be a really good player, and yet it is obvious that he is not, and people cannot get rid of him fast enough. So, I mean, the answer has to be in there somewhere, but I need to do a deep dive into this because, like, I keep saying, man, that guy just looks like he should be such a good player, and obviously he's just not.